Hi, I hope you're having a great day. We are joined today by my dog. That is Brandy. She seems to like coming in here when I make videos. So thank you for joining us. And today I want to talk a little bit about Epiphany and what that means. So today, when I'm filming this, is Epiphany, which is January 6th. That's a time in the church that has been celebrated since the 300s. So it's a really ancient tradition in both the Western and Eastern Christian churches. And that's when we remember when the Magi visited baby Jesus. We have since over the years said that there were three kings. It doesn't say that in the Bible. It doesn't say that they were kings. It also doesn't say that there were three of them, but that they brought three gifts. And so we've assumed over the years that they were three and that they were kings. They were probably of the Zoroastrian religion, and they were stargazers. And so they were following stars. They did something akin to what we would call astrology today, but they were following the stars, and this star led them to the Christ child. So after we celebrate the 12 days of Christmas, and that's December 25th through January 5th, then on January 6th, we have Epiphany, and Christmas season is technically over. So some churches celebrate Epiphany the Sunday before. Some churches celebrate Epiphany the Sunday after January 6th. But technically it is today as I'm filming it. I'm not sure when this video will go up. So now we start in our church, in the Lutheran tradition, we know this as the season following Epiphany. So that goes on for a little while as well. So what this means theologically, though, it's not with everything in the church, it's not just about a history lesson. It's not just about what happened 200 years or 2,000 years ago, or that this has been celebrated since the 300s for almost 2,000 years. What's important is theologically what this means to us today. You know, what does it have to do with somebody living in today's world? What does this have to do with you and me as people in modern times? Well, what Epiphany means is that not only did God come to us at Christmas time, and that God always comes to us and comes down to this earth and is in part of our lives, which is what Christmas shows us. But Epiphany means that we also receive it, that we also get it. And that's different, you know, because God could do any number of things that we don't receive. God could do any number of things that we don't get. It's sort of like if you love somebody, but they never knew about it. Well, it's nice that you love them, but it's also nice when they know about it and they receive that love and they take it in. So Christmas is about how God loves us so much that God came to us and still comes to us in full all the time. But Epiphany is about how we then can receive it, and we are open to it, and we in some ways get it. We don't completely get everything about God, obviously. We don't understand lots of things. I mean, I used to work in a hospital where, you know, young children would sometimes die. And the parents would be devastated, of course. And they would say, you know, why did God take my little child? And I didn't have the answer then, and I don't have the answer now. There are some things that are just totally mysterious. And we don't get the answers, you know, about a lot of those kinds of things. And so, you know, some denominations in the Christian church and some people in the Christian church are more comfortable with mystery than others. Some people have a really hard time with unanswered questions. And so some denominations tend to want to find an answer, and people tend to want to find an answer for those, you know, crazy questions like, why did a child die young? You might know, if you're on the receiving end of that answer, that those answers won't do. I mean, if your child dies young and somebody says, you know, well, God needed another angel in heaven, or some kind of trite platitude, it just won't do. In fact, it makes people angry at God. So, you know, I find it better to just let the mystery be a mystery, that there are some things we just don't understand. Maybe we never will in this lifetime. Sometimes I think of God kind of like an analogy, you know, kind of like the moon. You know, there's that dark side of the moon that we will never see, that we will never know. And that's the deal. That's what we get sometimes in our lives is a lot of mystery. But that doesn't mean that God reveals nothing. That doesn't mean that we are left completely bereft of any kind of answers or relationship or love. Because just like the moon, there's the dark side, but there's also the light side of the moon. There's also that revealed part of God. And we believe that most in Christianity in the form of Jesus Christ, that Jesus in flesh is the revealed face of God. And so what do we get from Jesus? Well, we see that God is a benevolent God. We see that God cares for the poor, the weak, the outcast, the underdog, the discarded members of society. We see that God creates miracles in our lives, and God cares about suffering, and God strengthens us and says that He'll always be there to guide us and walk alongside us, and God will never let us go. We see from Jesus saying what the most important law is, that it's to love God with all we've got and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. So we see a lot about God through the revealed part of God, which is Jesus. In addition, we also know that God, I firmly believe this, is with us every single day in our lives, every day, walking alongside us, trying all day long to get our attention. We often don't tune in. That's just how we are. We get distracted, we get busy, we get caught up with lots of things. I just read just today, the writer Anne Lamott said that her pastor said that you can capture bees in a mason jar without having a lid on it, because the bees don't look up. And if they looked up, they could see that they could fly out. And yet they don't do that. So they wander around, bumping into the glass, angry at the limitations of their lives. And we often are like that too. And Anne Lamott was making that point. I totally agree. We often just don't look up. We just don't. We look at the limitations of our lives. We look at, all the struggle and trials we're going through, and the distractions and the difficulties, or the good things, but what's right in front of us. And we don't often look up. It just doesn't even occur to us. We forget to do it. It's like we have amnesia. And so meanwhile, God the entire day, every day for all of us, is trying to get our attention and trying to reveal parts of who God is to us. And so if we can remember this, and we can take the time sometimes to look up, we can find the face of God in lots of things throughout our lives. And this is Epiphany, where we get it. Sometimes we hear the wisdom of God through other people. Sometimes we hear it through music, through an awesome dog, through those things that make us joyful. We realize God's with us. God loves us. God will never let us go. God has declared us lovable and worthy and enough. We don't have to strive all the time to prove our worthiness and our lovableness. And we get these things. We receive that love of God. So my wish for you and for all of us throughout this whole Epiphany season is that we take that time to look up. We take that time to not just know that God came 2,000 years ago to this earth, but that God comes every single day into our lives, and that we can receive God, that we have been given the gift of being able to look up, to look out, to look within our own hearts, our own selves, to look at those places that might be a little less obvious, but still there, those places of love and peace and joy. If I can be of any help as a pastor to walk alongside you, if you have issues you want to talk about, you know where I am, I think. I'm a pastor in Rancho Cucamonga, California at Cross and Crown Lutheran Church. You can also contact me here on this page through the comments below. Please do subscribe and hit the little thumbs up to like this video if it's meaningful to you. It gives those of us that are on this production team, it gives us a lot of encouragement that what we're doing is meaningful, sharing the gospel. So my wish to you is peace and joy and looking up this Epiphany. God bless you. Bye-bye.